You're listening to episode 21 of the Master Your Mind, Business, and Life podcast. This week's episode is a special episode featuring a big announcement. But before we really dive into it, I don't want to miss highlighting the review of the week. This week's review comes from LDB443, who said, "Relatable and inspirational. Really related to this and got me feeling motivated for change. I felt stuck in my career, afraid to make the next big jump." Well, cheers to you, LDB443. Dare to take that leap into the unknown. You've got this. If you want to have your review highlighted, simply submit your review to your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, and I'll choose one each week to read. Okay, are you ready to dive in and learn this big surprise? You know what to do. Tune in, turn it up, and let's go.
You're listening to Master Your Mind, Business, and Life. Conversations with everyday world shifters, truth seekers, and rule breakers. Here's your host, Lauren Smith.
Hey everyone, it's Lauren Smith. Welcome back to another episode. Now, if you're following me on social media or are part of my email blast, you know that I've hyped this episode up for a certain surprise element. Many of you have taken guesses on what this news could be, but no one has guessed correctly. I can't even dive into that big news until I take you back to a certain day. So time travel with me as I walk you through the day of Monday, November 26th, 2018. I know the date not only because it was the Monday after Thanksgiving, but also because I have a plethora of detailed notes from that day that help me be able to pinpoint and remember exactly what happened and when. So it's not as if I'm just pulling this date out of thin air. The odd thing about this day is that I woke up around 2:30 in the morning after having the most bizarre dream. The first thought on my mind after opening my eyes was, I need to talk to Sherile about business. If you're new to the show, Sherile Turner is a friend and mentor of mine. She's also a mindfulness expert, and she was on episodes 2 and 18. Okay, so back to the story. I had no idea why I need to talk to Sherile about business. But being that it was 2:30 in the morning my time, I went back to bed and told myself that I would text her later. When I woke up around 5:30, I immediately grabbed my phone to text her, and much to my surprise, I had a text from Sherile, and she was asking me if we could jump on a call and talk about business. My mind was blown. So when we got on that call a few hours later, Sherile had said something to the fact that because we had been working together so much in terms of healing and growth, and really on numerous levels of spirituality, she felt it was time that we worked together more in the business sense. We began brainstorming on a few topics throughout our calls, with many ideas discussed. The one we landed on was doing some sort of course creations for brands online. When we got off that call, we had some ideas to work with and further figure out. And we told each other that we would regroup later. Later that night, my life got a little stressful. My kids were being slightly crazy and couldn't seem to stop arguing with each other. I was feeling anxious and I was really craving a few minutes of alone time. So I decided to go back to my bedroom and turn on a mantra and just zone out and try and meditate. The mantra I put on is called the Sherile Money Meditation. Now, Shri means wealth and yantra means instrument. It's said that if you repeat this mantra 108 times a day, it brings you financial prosperity. It's a really calming mantra. Even my kids listen to it and sometimes recite it. So anyways, I put on this mantra, and midway through my meditation, I get this visual. And it wasn't just any visual. It was more of a guide showing me what I'm supposed to do next in my life. The next big thing. Fast forward to today. Today is my 31st birthday. Not a big milestone like my 30th, but I'm a huge lover of birthdays in general. Once a year, you celebrate the day you enter the world, and the only thing better than new life is celebrating the life you have. Last year, I celebrated my 30th birthday in New Orleans with one of my best friends. But this year feels so different on so many levels. Last year, I really learned how to say no to things that no longer serve me while saying yes to things that fuel my purpose. 2018 was a really hard year, both emotionally and mentally. But to me, 2019 has already felt a bit lighter. Because I love giving gifts more than I love receiving them, now don't get me wrong, I still adore receiving, I wanted to give you, my audience, a gift in honor of my birthday. And while a physical gift just can't be handed to you, it's not feasible right now, I decided to give a different kind of gift. A gift that has been brewing in my mind since 2015, but really started to heat up on that day in November. Now, before we go into any further news about this, I have to bring in a familiar voice to help me navigate the rest of the story and share the news with me. So, if you haven't guessed it already, I'd like to welcome back my friend and mentor, Sherile Turner. Sherile, it is so great to have you back with us.
Hi, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here again.
I know,
hope that everybody is not getting tired of hearing my voice. But
No.
I just love doing this podcast with you. And I just love speaking to you and giving people lots of inspiration and lots of insight into our amazing lives.
I know. And you had even wondered, too, if it was too much for you to come back for this episode since you had just been on so recently. And I was like, no, everyone loves you.
Well, I don't want everyone to get tired of me, but yeah. So thank you for inviting me back again. And I'm really happy to be here with you and all of the listeners in 2019.
Yes. Our first episode together in 2019.
Exciting.
Most know that we started working together when we were working together on a project in Prague. But over the past year, I don't know, maybe year and a half or so, the way in which we work together has drastically changed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we're very aligned when it comes to the elements of growth and healing and really overall personal development.
Yeah. I think one of the things that a lot of people may not know is that I think one of the reasons that we are so aligned is because we have the same birth chart. And I remember finding out, because I'm a real astrology buff and I stay learning about astrology and I'm just completely fascinated with it. But I remember finding out that you and I have exactly the same birth chart with just our sun and moons reversed, which blew my mind. And I was like, who is this person? She's like the other half of me. And
it's so true.
It just became so easy to just like bounce ideas around. Like we work together so harmoniously. We just have so much more in common than different, which is just really, really strange. Like you can't write this stuff. You can't plan it. It just is how it is. So I think that that's one of the things that makes you and I just have this great energy when we come together. And it's just just an easy, natural fit for us to just work together on stuff.
It really is. And before we started this call, we were discussing how even our children are alike in their own regard. Yes, in the reverse order.
Right. So we both have two daughters. Yeah. And my oldest is like your youngest, and your oldest is like my youngest daughter.
Yeah. And then my youngest is like your oldest. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I might have got that wrong, but yeah, you get the gist.
Yeah. We're flip-flopped on the oldest and youngest spectrum. Yeah. It's so crazy.
So, yeah. But I think, we obviously both have very similar views and an outlook in terms of personal growth and spiritual awakening and healing and all of these things. And so I think when I first met you in Prague, I may have mentioned that I was just starting to really get into and start to really explore psychotherapy as a career, because obviously we both come from media backgrounds and the project we were working on was media related. And obviously that was back in 2015. And so I just started to make a change into embracing this as my career. And then as time's gone on, we just found so many sort of similarities in terms of ideas and, just exploring different things in life. And so it's just all come together, and it's just a really, really nice place to be in.
Right. And I can say to the audience, when I first met Sherile, I didn't even know who I was meeting at the time and what I would really be getting myself into, because I thought I was just meeting this incredible woman who was really skilled at sponsorships. I had no idea how many layers there were to you, or even just how much you would help me evolve from that point that we met even through today. I did not know what the universe was handing me when I met you.
Yeah. And I didn't know I was meeting someone who's just so funny. Like, I love to laugh, and you have the best sense of humor ever in life. Like, I was just so relieved that you were there. But anyway, apart from that, it's just really nice because, as I was saying to you earlier, sometimes we have to hide ourselves a little bit, especially when we're in a professional environment, because, nobody wants to deal with the challenges of people thinking that you're a bit weird or, what do you do? You're what? Do you know what I mean? And so with you and I, it just got to that place where it was like, I could just be like, this is who I really am. I think in the past 6 months, we've really explored that together.
We've explored some depths that I still am a little unsure about, but they don't even faze you. It's just like another day in your life. And I'm like, wait, what happened? What happened? But it's all amazing. So it's like, it's just amazing.
It really is. And of course, it's amazing to see you on your spiritual journey and your personal growth, because I think that, I sometimes forget how old you are or how young you are in comparison to myself, but you've got such a good grasp on life. And the fact that you are seeking out all of this personal growth so early on, I just really admire just like, your whole intention behind all of that. Because as I was saying to you earlier, when I was your age, it was all about the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, a lot of people who listen or who may know me personally before this, they know that social media management and marketing was what I've done really part of my career for the past 7-8 years. And when I think about that now, it no longer, it's not my driving force in life. So when people come to me and they're like, hey, will you manage this or give me advice on that? It's like, yeah, I can give you advice on that, but I don't wake up and want to do that anymore. I know that I have a bigger purpose, and I felt that it's time that I start unleashing that purpose. So I know that this podcast was just one small step to that.
Yeah. And I think that, the podcast, like you said, is one small step, but it's definitely opened the door to so many more things. And one thing that I'd say is that we do have a very similar viewpoint in terms of why we do some of this spiritual and personal growth work. I mean, for myself, one of the reasons that I find it so important to work with people on their healing in particular, so whether that's through mindfulness or some kind of counseling or psychotherapy, is because the more I help people, it's the better that I get. So I'm completely immersed in this now. Like, I feel really blessed, and I'm completely grateful that I have managed in the past couple of years. And 2018 was really pivotal in me making the move to be able to embrace this. And I'm fortunate to not only be able to work in this, but also to employ people to work with me in delivering to, my clients and other people tools for mindfulness and mental well-being and, all of these types of things. But the more I do and the more immersed in it I am, the better my life is and the healthier I am mentally and emotionally. And that's not something that I take for granted. And it's not something that, I overlook. I'm really enjoy facilitating healing and growth for other people, but I'm always very mindful of the fact that it helps me at the same time.
Right. Right. And that's how I feel. I feel like growth and healing go hand in hand for me. I didn't even realize how much of repressed feelings or thoughts or emotions were affecting or just really pulling back my ability to fully grow or go to the next step or to push back certain mindset blocks. I didn't realize that I had to deal with these, what I was thinking were seemingly small things. It's almost, it's like that tumbling effect. Like you don't realize it until you start working on one thing and you see how it's affecting another part of your life. And once I started working on that internally, and then through this podcast, and I get these feedbacks from people who are like, oh, these conversations gave me an aha moment, or that was the exact message I needed to hear today. That fuels me because I know that while I'm growing and healing, there are listeners all over the world who are growing and healing at the same spot or at the same time. We all have different issues. We all come from different backgrounds, but we all know what it's like to want to better ourselves in our lives. And that is kind of the mission that I can get behind, is creating a better life for yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's just really important to kind of just point out that, this is a journey, right? There's no destination. We're not trying to arrive. We just want to continue to help other people and help ourselves at the same time. So I always say to people that, I'm not that person that is just so giving that all I want to do is just help the whole world. Of course, I want to help people, but at the same time, I choose to live my life in a certain way where what I do in terms of helping other people helps me as well. So, for example, I don't have the ambition to sell alcohol, right? Because that's just not going to work for me. Everything in life is give and take. Everything is cyclical. What goes around comes around is one of the truest statements ever. And so there's a selfish element in what I do in terms of working on mindfulness and any of the psychotherapy work that I do, because I just really believe that the more I immerse myself in it, the more I learn about myself, the more I heal myself, the more capable I am of healing others. So that's what it is for me. And I just think that me, you, and getting to know you, we've come to an understanding that we have a very similar look when it comes to growth and healing.
Yes, growth and healing. Ugh, I love it.
Yeah, we're not on a rescue mission.
No,
we're just out here holding space.
Exactly.
There's a big difference.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess people are going to want to know how we work together, right? So I don't know if you want to share a couple of stories or just a couple of things about some of the ways in which we've worked together.
Well, I don't know which stories do you think we should dive into? Like, are there any that come to your mind that we should touch on? Because I have a whole journal full.
Yeah, there are so many. I think one of the ways that we've been able to actually work together in terms of facilitating healing is working with people who are suffering with grief and loss.
Yes.
And it's really interesting because I think that sometimes what happens in life is that people are brought together in a way in which they create almost like a channel. So there are people that I've been able to work with because of my connection to you, right? So it's almost like some of the work that I've been able to do wouldn't have been possible if you and I weren't friends and weren't colleagues and we didn't work together and have the relationship that we have, right? So I think where people have been able to connect, I think some of them, the trust has been because they're connected to you. And then I've been able to help them or work with them in terms of healing or getting some healing as a result of losing loved ones. And I think that's something that is really important to both of us because we know what an impact it makes on people's lives. And so just having that intention to really help people in that particular way, that's universal, right? Grief and loss is universal. Anybody that has ever lost anybody just knows how difficult it is, how challenging it is to find a new normal, a new way of living without that person being here physically. So I think that's something that has been really, really powerful. And I know that there have been quite a few surprising, incidents that have come up as a result of that. But I just think that, this is one of the ways that we've worked together. And then, of course, there are lots of other ways where, just having, sharing ideas about the types of things that we can share with people, whether that be to do with, self-compassion or mindfulness, and just coming together with ideas and just sort of exploring what we know people to be struggling with, where we have the ability to provide insight or some tools and, techniques that people can use to really help themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some of that, when we were talking about the grief work and loss, when you are helping with their healing, I have also had to, in many times, been the messenger of the healing message. And for me, that was that was something new to me, because I had to learn how to deliver the message without interpreting the message for them, or giving them like guidance on it. So like I really had to follow your lead on that, because that was something new to me. But it's also kind of cool because I'm really good at notes. Like I write everything down. I'm really good with journaling. So that was almost like the perfect in for me, because I am so detailed with notes that it was easy for me to correlate these messages to these people in a way that it made sense coming from you, even if they weren't talking to you directly.
Yeah. And I think this is what I'm talking about in terms of the beauty of partnership, because I think, one person cannot do everything. And when you have a partnership and people learn or know how to work together, it's that understanding that both parties are necessary. And in some cases, people are like, oh, well, it's like that person does all the work. Well, I'll give you a really good example. Nostradamus wouldn't be well known if he didn't have the person that was with him that was helping to record all of the information. Right? So we wouldn't know about any of Nostradamus's teachings if somebody wasn't recording them, making sense of them, formulating them, and like you said, passing the information on. Because sometimes that's the hardest part, right? Is being the messenger. But it's that coming together in a partnership, it creates a certain energy that allows the healing to take place. So it's very difficult to facilitate healing independently or individually without the other person that is helping that to happen. It's that energy combined that makes it work. And I think that's one of the things where you're particularly humble about this, but I think it's one of the things that, people need to kind of get some understanding. It's like, you need left and right, two hands to clap. They just shouldn't be doing the same thing. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's not possible for me to make notes while I'm helping somebody.
Right. And there's so many times that, like, even today I was like, oh yeah, you remember that conversation? And I have all these notes down, and you're like, no, I don't particularly remember that.
I do not retain information in that way. It's not possible. I speak to too many people in too many different scenarios.
Right.
But this is where teamwork makes the dream work. And I just think that if we didn't have aligned intentions, we wouldn't be able to even have this happen for people.
No. So when we go back to that day in November, when we were discussing online, we were talking online courses for brands. And people are probably like, well, how the hell does that fit in with growth and healing and personal development? Well, that's a really good question, because Sherile herself is like a master generator of ideas. Like you have all of these ideas that like come to you. And I was just like going along with it. I'm like, yeah, all right, sounds good. I'm just like trusting your flow on that. And it wasn't that I was even going to go against the grain on it. Like you were like having this, like, I mean, that whole day you were on fire with ideas. Like you were,
I had it sorted.
Yeah.
I was so sure.
Yeah. You were sure that what we were supposed to do next were like online, like we were going to help companies. Essentially, we're going to facilitate their online courses for them. That's what was going to happen. And that night, well, maybe I should digress a little bit. When I said that I had that bizarre dream on that morning at 2:30 in the morning, it wasn't just like a bizarre dream because something had happened in it. But in that dream, I actually had two of my deceased grandparents, my paternal grandfather and my maternal grandmother, were in that dream, along with my girl's deceased uncle and my Aunt Angela's deceased father. And they were all there. They were all in this dream together, but nothing was said. And so when I wake up from that dream, it was very odd to me that I had to text you about business because that didn't make any sense based off of that dream I had. There was no communication, but to me, I'm like, why did I wake up thinking about business? And then to wake up the second time from a text from you stating that you should think that we should be talking about business today, it was all like, what is happening? It was just like, what is going on? So then we had this whole discussion about the online coaching or online courses. And from that night, I go and I meditate. And should I go ahead and tell them what I?
Yeah, okay. I think everybody wants to know.
Okay, all right. So when I had meditated that night, I saw. It was, in your third eye, when you close your eyes and you can visually see something, this is, what I'm seeing inside my mind is I saw Sherile and I it was where I was seeing was a tropical location. But what we were doing is we were teaching and we were facilitating a retreat. And from like what I was seeing, there was, I don't know, I think I had even said like 11 or 12 people, right? Like it was a smaller group, not like this massive, retreat of like hundreds or anything like that. It was a small, intimate group, but we were doing a retreat. And I think that the most interesting part about this whole retreat that I saw was when I told you about it, you were like, yes, that's it. Like, that's amazing. Like, write it all down. But then the next day, we didn't discuss it. That Tuesday, we didn't discuss it at all. We both had, I think, just like very busy days that day. But that following Wednesday, you had an interesting thing happen with one of your daughters who said something. Remember? She said something about a retreat.
Course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my oldest daughter, she didn't know anything about the conversation. I hadn't told her anything. And we were on the phone having a whole conversation about lots of things. And she said, you know what, Mum, next year is the year that you do your retreat. And the reason she said this is because for many years, I had worked with a client of mine on a golf retreat in Turkey. And we'd been working together for coming up to 5 years. And I had actually asked him if he would share his hotel contacts with me so that I could plan some kind of, therapeutic retreat. So I was like, the golf is for the husbands, the wives come along. We could do like spa, mindfulness, whatever, meditation for the women. And he strung me along for the longest time until I was like, okay, forget it. It's just not going to happen. So obviously my daughter knew about this. This is something I'd thought about, but I'd kind of put it to the back of my mind. So she knew that I'd always wanted to do it, but out of the blue, she said, do you know what, Mum? This is the year that you do your retreat. And she's fairly spiritual, so we're well connected, but it was just literally out of nowhere.
Right. And like from that moment, it was almost like every sign was just giving us that reassurance. Yes. It's like, This is it. That's what you're supposed to do. So here it is.
And, right. And also, you had for a number of years wanted to do a retreat.
That's
right?
true. Yeah. I guess it was that same year that we went to Prague. Actually, if there's been numerous times where you have asked me to kind of like go within, like, what's the first thing you see me doing? And it's always been teaching of some level. Like either I'm in a classroom or a workshop or doing a retreat. Like I've just known that teaching on some level is part of my purpose. And I like smaller groups in general. When I do any types of workshops, I prefer the workshops that have a smaller amount of people, but I've always felt that desire to do a retreat. I just never, it's always been that aspect of doing it alone. Sometimes for me, doing something alone, I get really unsure about, but it also just never felt like that right timing too, you know? And now I understand why, because I think a lot had to happen from that time that I first had that idea of a retreat until now. I think if I would have hosted it back then, it probably wouldn't have worked out the way I want it to. But yeah, it was also something that just stayed in the back of my mind. And so when I saw that in my meditation, but I wasn't alone doing it, it was with you next to me. That to me was like the most reassuring thing that I could have ever seen in my third eye. You know, it was just like, yeah, that feels right to do it with Sherile. Yeah. Okay, amazing. I'm game. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And so this is something that we have in common that neither of us have actually done yet. We've not delivered it yet, but it's something that has been pressing on both of us in different ways at different times over a similar kind of time period. Right. So continue.
So all that we really needed were things to align.
There you go. Yeah, it's all about alignment. And one of the things that we often say is that nothing happens before the time, right? Yeah. And it's just got to the point now where it all makes sense. We have so much that we want to share with people. We also have so many people that, you know, approach us regularly who are either exploring their healing or their growth, you know, looking for ways to, you know, align themselves and align their lives. And we just think that now is an excellent time to go ahead and
launch this retreat. We're going to do it. So coming in September of 2019, Sherile and I will be co-hosting the A.L.I.G.N.E.D retreat. Now, A.L.I.G.N.E.D is an acronym, and that acronym stands for abundance, love, intellect, growth, nurture, evolve, and destiny. Like all the things that you need in life to all align together to really grow and heal and just become the best version of you. Oh, I'm so excited. Right. So we have the dates carved out already. So they will be September 26th through September 30th. And what kind of sealed the deal, we were bouncing around different dates and playing with it. Sherile just knew that it had to be September. I kind of think she's prone to September because of her birthday, but she also had some other really good points about why September would work.
We're both birthday people.
Yeah, we really are. Clearly, we're both birthday people given this episode. But no, it felt right. And when we were looking at dates, I know we were kind of tossing it around, and I don't even know how like the last weekend came up, but for some reason I checked to see what the moon cycle would be on that weekend. And Saturday the 28th is a new moon. And for those who aren't really into the moon phases or what they mean or represent, the new moon is all about new beginnings, and it's symbolic. It's symbolic of the second chance that we're given over and over again. And the moon has a very purifying energy, and it's really there to aid us in our reflection. So how cool that the dates that we've set also fall on the new moon.
That's right. And one other thing that is absolutely vital to this whole process is, apart from the fact that we're inviting you to join us on this retreat, which is going to be amazing. I mean, we're not talking about silence and yoga. We're talking about healing, party, healing, have fun, healing.
Do what you want.
Time, right?
Dance
we're talking about that. But the other thing is that we're also huge believers in DIY. We don't believe in forcing things down people's throats. We like to work with people who come to us when they're ready, and just to really facilitate whatever it is that people are working on. Yeah. And the way in which we would like to reflect this in the retreat is have your guys' input in terms of locations. Now, Lauren and I have explored a ton of locations, so we do have a top 3. But what we'd really love to do is hear from you guys, because this is your retreat just as much as it's ours. Like, whatever happens, Lauren and I are going on a retreat anyway.
Yeah, it's happening. Like, we'll take a holiday. It doesn't matter. No one joins us on this. We are completely okay. The 2 of us.
We're retreated in September 2019.
You come with us or don't. I mean, we would love for you to come with us, but if it ends up just being the 2 of us, no, it's still going to be a good time.
Happening. Yeah. But we just think it would be great if you guys came along. And one of the things that we'd love to do is just hear from you in terms of where you'd like to go, because Lauren and I are far from traditional. And so everything that we do is a little bit outside of the traditional. So let's see what you guys want to do. Let's see where you'd like to go. Let's see what you have to say in terms of location. We provide the content. We know exactly what you guys would benefit from in terms of workshops and interactions, but we'd love to hear from you in terms of where you would like to retreat with Lauren and I.
Right. And when we were talking about this, when you're thinking about where do you want to retreat, you also have to think about a place that you want to cross off, like your bucket list. We discussed that because it also has to be like a bucket list item, right? So that way you're not just going for that, like you're also going for the experience of the place as well. And Sherile had mentioned where it's going to be workshop and fun. It's not going to be workshops all day long, where you just have so much in your mind that you just want to go and nap afterwards and not do anything. To us, what we envision is workshops in the morning and then free time the rest of the time. Right? Like it's a vacation for you as well, but you're also getting tools that you can apply to your everyday life.
Right. It has to be fun. There has to be that playful element, but also it'd be nice to go somewhere that we can explore together.
Yes.
Where we can experience new things and create new memories. Because one of the most powerful things about growth and healing is attaching these new tools to new experiences and new memories, because it just works together so well. So we want to know where you want to go.
Yes. And luckily for you, we set up a private Facebook group that we would like for you to join. I will link it in this week's episode notes, but it is simply called A.L.I.G.N.E.D, and it is A.L.I.G.N.E.D with a period in between each letter. So you can find that group on Facebook and give us your feedback. And if you don't have Facebook, I know there are some listeners who don't, feel free to shoot me an email, find me on social media. Doesn't mean that you're going to be, not able to give your feedback. We still want it. There are numerous ways for you to give your input to either myself or Sherile.
And one other thing that we'll be doing with the Facebook group is, on top of providing updates on the retreat, we're also going to be feeding you all with amazing content. So this is one of the places where you'll be able to get some of my mindfulness content. Lauren and I will be posting other little bits and pieces that we think you'll find useful.
Yes.
So it's going to be an amazing place to join us anyway, whether you want to come on the retreat or not. We know that retreating isn't for everybody, but if you just want to have a continuation of the work that Lauren and I do together, then this is the ideal place to go. And we promise to provide you with just absolutely amazing content that will really help you in your everyday life.
Right. So we'll call it the aligned community. I think that's good for the Facebook group because really we're creating a community of like-minded souls who are on that journey to grow, heal, and evolve. So think of the private Facebook group as a safe space to harbor growth. And like Sherile said, she has tons of mindfulness tips and tools and practices that we can implement. We're also going to do some videos together, some mini lessons. We'll do some Q&A guided sessions, and of course the retreat updates. So there's a lot to get from that. Even if a retreat's not your thing, or maybe you don't think you could do it this year, but are interested. I mean, it's going to be a yearly thing for us. I already know. So if you just want to stay updated or just really get those tools to help aid in your alignment, this is the best group to go to.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
100%.
I am so excited. So excited for this.
Times.
I know. And, this episode kind of catapulted everything because I was struggling with what exactly a birthday episode would look like. Because you had said what does your birthday have to do with the podcast?
I was like, can you just explain to me what's the relevance of it being your birthday and the podcast? Isn't it because it's your podcast? I don't know.
I was like, I didn't think about that. Because when I decided to launch this podcast, I launched in August, but I was looking ahead to the new year and I noticed that the podcast episode landed on my birthday. So I thought nothing else other than birthday episode. I don't know. I had no idea what it meant. And then I think I kind of thought, it'll figure itself out, or, something will happen or an idea will pop up. And I even turned to my Instagram community and asked everyone hey, what should I do? And I had some really great feedback. People, share what your goal is for the year, or maybe do a year in review, or your bucket list for your 31st year of life. And they were great ideas. But they just didn't feel right, And then when I call Sherile every time I'm in a bind like this, where I kind of set myself up for something, open my mouth too soon, and then set these high expectations. And she's like, right. So if you're not going to have a high, guest on there, a guest who's like Lewis Howes or Gary Vaynerchuk or someone like that, then you need to share something. And I was like, oh my gosh, we can share the retreat. This is the perfect setup to finally launch it because we had the name down. We have the dates down. We know that we want all of you to attend, who this feels, that it resonates with, but we hadn't actually announced it. So what better than my birthday to use the day as the day to launch the news that A.L.I.G.N.E.D retreat is happening September 26th through the 30th.
So we're really excited to connect with you guys in a Facebook group and obviously see you all in September and just have a great time.
Yes, I'm so excited. Well, I think we've kind of built up the hype enough. We will be having more information on the Facebook group. A website will be coming soon. I'll keep you guys updated on the podcast. Just listen for the intro or outro of the podcast, and I'll let you know when there's an update for that as well. But if you're part of the Facebook community, you'll obviously see updates in that. And I really hope that everyone joins us. But don't forget that we need your feedback on the location. So make sure you go over and join that Facebook group. I think you just have to answer a few questions, and then we will accept your request and you'll be in. Well, thanks again, Sherile, for joining me. And we will have more information on the Aligned Retreat soon.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Well, there you have it. The Aligned Retreat is in full-blown planning mode, and we want you to join us. I've outlined all of the details on this week's episode notes found on mindbizlife.com. Within those episode notes, I've also included a direct link for our newly created Facebook group. Even if this retreat isn't up your alley, but you still want to join a community of like-minded souls on a journey to grow, heal, and evolve, then I invite you to join us. I have also embedded the Sri Yantra money chant into the show notes. I put this on anytime my kids are going a little crazy, or even when I'm working and need some good vibes. I've meditated to it more times than I can count. It's very soothing and easy to listen to. I really hope I see you in September. Remember, the location is the only thing not decided upon, and that's because we want you to help us choose. The only way that you can do so is to join that Facebook group and give us some insight. We'll release the location in mid-February, shortly before tickets go on sale. Next week's episode, we'll be talking about money. Featured in Forbes, money mindset expert Agnes Kowalski will join us to discuss how we can give ourselves permission to prosper. I'm going to go treat myself to a free Jersey Mike's birthday sub, followed by a manicure and pedicure. Gotta love those birthday vibes, right? I'll see you back here next week for another episode. And until then, remember, every level of life is an opportunity to grow. Be well, my friend.